Right.
That's
Setting it up.
because I have a different good. I'll figure out. Like, I need to know like what's the still
Yeah.
I'm ready to.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the Smithville R2 Board of Education meeting to order. Josiah, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. First. Okay, perfect. First item on the agenda is adoption modification of the agenda. If there's no modification of the agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. There's no discussion. Please join the meeting and vote. That'll be the All right, motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda, approval of consent agenda, which includes regular session minutes for October 18th, bills for payment in November, supplemental payment for November, MSBA policies 2023C, approval of the personnel report, the updated salary schedule, and approval of FFA travel request. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Saxton is joining us remotely, so he's online for who's following along in the room. 9.1, comments from the audience. Hearing none. 9.2, communications. So I believe we have a thank you card in here.
Yes, you can see it. The thank you card was from Emily Miller and family. She wrote that on behalf of her mother, who asked during her passing to make contributions to Maple, which the Smithville School District did. And this is just her way of saying thank you for showing our appreciation and the tremendous time that she spent at Maple, and they were just very thankful of the response from the community.
Fantastic. That's great. Next item on the agenda, 9.3, superintendent update.
Yes, we have a full audience this evening. So thank you all first for coming. And we have several groups to recognize, but I wanted to start and ask, I believe Miss Avery Patton has joined us. Avery, would you please stand? Thank you, Avery. Avery is a fourth grade student from Eagle Heights Elementary School, and she auditioned and was selected as a member of the 2024 Missouri All-State Children's Choir.
Hey.
He was one of only 120 students that were selected out of thousands that auditioned. And then this choir will be conducted by New York Young People's Chorus director Sophia Popoulis, which if I butchered her name, I apologize. And she will get to perform at Tantera at the Lake of the Ozarks, which is now renamed Margaritaville later this year. So yeah, a little ironic. But Avery, we wanted to get a chance to say congratulations. Thank you for representing the school district so well. And I think you may have brought some special guests with you. Would you mind introducing them?
Yeah, those people.
Yeah.
You can introduce. It's okay. Just
Hey, you're going to sing in front of thousands. This is the easy part.
you can sing it.
Here, Avery, come up here. I'll introduce them on your behalf. You just got to tell me who they are.
Yeah.
We have Avery's dad, Jarrett. Her mom, Amber.
And Brody.
And little brother, Brody. So, Avery, congratulations. If you wouldn't
one more.
mind, would you?
One more.
Oh.
One more.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
and Grandma Tracy, I'm so thank you guys. Yeah.
While you're here, can we get a photo and
Yeah,
maybe
you
shake
guys
hands?
come up for a photo and then please walk through the board to shake hands. Grandma, you too.
I don't know, dude. I don't actually got too wide of a lens.
You guys can stand up front and we will all make sure we're on our tiptoes or in the right window. Get back.
You got named, you got a drawing, so. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Avery, would you please come by and shake all our hands? Yes, please. Thank you.
Now, congratulations, Avery.
National anthem in a game this year. I think we need to make that. Right? Okay, we can do it. We want it.
Yeah.
It's easier when you're singing in a group.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, start practicing.
You know what you're doing, yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats. So what
Thank
was
you
your
guys for
audition
coming.
song?
We know she didn't
What'd you
get
say?
anywhere on her own, so I don't think
Nice.
you guys
Well,
heard
okay.
her. Oh, from Grandma.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. Oh, I didn't know that.
That's a cool idea.
Mm, yeah. Next, we would Mrs. Marsh please stand and come up. We would like to recognize our future business leaders of America. They have most recently competed in several competitions, and I wanted to give her the opportunity to introduce members of FBLA and talk about their accomplishments. Floor is yours.
Okay, I don't know.
It's
It's
on.
Okay, great, sure. So my name is Mrs. Marsh, and as he mentioned, I have a few students that have really done a tremendous job with the first season, with our just first few months of FBLA season. All states had the opportunity, and all FBLA chapters really had the opportunity to take part in a initial testing event, essentially where to help them prepare for districts and states and or nationals. And they could select from computer science events to accounting to agribusiness, just a variety of testing environments. It was and it was a true testing environment where they were timed. They had to come into my classroom. It was a proctored environment. And when they logged in, the time began, and then that was it. And essentially all of those initial scores just for beginning of season, they then look at that data and make somewhat predictions, and we did really well. So in fact, I believe, do you want me to introduce them?
Please do. Please do.
So Nathan Fletcher, please stand up. And it wasn't just Missouri, it was all of the multiple states were participating in this business battle event. But he placed third or second? Third in computer science.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
You can introduce them all, then we'll have you guys all come up and walk by. No, that's
No,
your
that's for
cheat
you. That's
sheet.
your cheat sheet.
I have this memorized.
No.
Sometimes you get stage fright, right?
It's the information you gave us.
I did. I do know them very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did I look at the data to formulate the email? I sure did. Okay. So Lexi, did she make it here? No. Okay. Ellie Herner, go ahead and stand up. She placed already 7th in the state in management decision making.
All right.
And let me give Nathan Fletcher the due justice. 3rd in state in computer science and information technology.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I get that correct. Ellie Herner, I already mentioned you. Isabella Monticello, please stand up. Second in state in marketing, sales, and communication.
Awesome.
Mason West, please stand up. 4th in state already for entrepreneurship.
Well, congratulations, guys. I know it was mentioned multiple states. I believe Iowa, Kansas. I think there were almost 8 or 9 states involved in that competition. So congratulations. And would you guys please come through and shake hands so we can get and recognize everyone? And before that, though, please introduce anyone that may be your guest with you this evening.
Awesome.
Nathan, there you go. All right, please come through.
A true entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's got it.
Hopefully Karen will stop and come back for a little while.
Congratulations.
Will you stop and come back for a little while?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Nice to see you again.
Look forward to chatting with you soon.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
You guys
Great job.
Oh, yeah, here, yes.
Congrats. Good to see you again.
Hey, don't sit yet. Just come back.
Please come back up.
Please come back. Miss, where's Miss Menarge? Yes.
Come back on up.
Scott, get back.
Moderately comical. Only moderate.
Come here, station.
We're gonna have to find some. We're gonna have to find windows.
You guys need stools to stand on.
Great job. Thank you all.
And I think everyone can predict our next group just by the jackets they're wearing. Mr. V. Brock, would you please come up and talk about your FFA students that are here?
Great. We are recognizing our students that attended the National FFA Convention here recently in Indianapolis, Indiana. Not all of our students are here. We had 16 students that went, and we traveled with Richmond and Plattsburgh. We had a total of 32 students. some of the students that are here are part of our chapter officer team, and they just recently competed at the area rituals contest and placed first in that
Awesome.
competition on our area, which is about 28 schools. So
Awesome.
I'm pretty excited about that. I have with me this evening our chapter president, Isabel Howler, our vice president, one of them, or both of them, Kason Fuller, Vice President Josiah Kasinger, reporter Kira Lamson, and chaplain Larson V. Brock, and then just a member at large. We call him Mr. Smiles. He never is without a smile. If he's not smiling, you know that the world is wrong that day. Alex Zimmerman. So, very good. Congrats. A leader, right? Takes one like sheep. Just someone's got to jump across the gate.
And are there any things that you would want to talk about the highlights of getting to go to the national convention?
Highlight for me was having a high school administrator go. I've invited the administrators my entire career, and they always come up with reason not to go. And I told Mr. Moore that since he was just hired and he was still in his euphoria period, and to come along. And I greatly appreciated him being there. I think you do not understand how large FFA is until you get to go to the national convention. The numbers have just recently come in. 73,000 FFA members were in attendance. We are just a little over 940,000 members nationwide and in the U.S. territories. When they say a whole nother city invades Indianapolis, that's what they're talking about. So
Sure.
pretty unique. Agriculture's broad-based. So I could spend all day talking to you. If you have a specific question, I'd be glad to answer it. Anybody?
Johnny, what's your ratio usually of women to men?
Normally, I have more ladies now
Cool.
than guys, and no offense, the guys are lazy and girls are hard workers. That's and then
He's
have
still
I-
smiling.
it just seems like if you're talking about FFA
Yeah.
participation, I have more ladies
Awesome.
participate, and nationwide, the ladies hold more leadership
Okay.
positions than males. But
Nothing
we've got,
against anybody. I was just wondering. It's neat to see.
yeah, we got great kids. Any other questions?
Any students have a highlight from the trip or FFA as a whole?
Hold on.
Getting to meet people that are just of our nature. We're all so similar, and we have an agriculture usually based field of career interest. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just getting to see and meet other people from Alaska, from Hawaii. So it's amazing.
Anyone else?
Any other comments you want to share?
That gets nervous.
I like FFA was cool. I mean, just going to a convention center and seeing all these people walk around, and from me being about his age when I first got going to then me going now and seeing it change, seeing how the whole program has changed over the years was really eye-opening. And that it's still going to be here the next couple of years.
I'd like to say it's kind of cool seeing our American degree recipients walk across the stage. I know this year we had somebody who was unfortunately unable to go. So actually I got to watch the stage, which was really, really, really cool, because then you just see everybody. It's just sea blue, which is something people a lot of times say. So that was really, really cool as well.
So that's a very prestigious recognition, correct?
Yes,
Would
sir.
you share with the audience what that recognition is? And was it a 2023 grad that received it? Is that correct?
So Clayton McCall was a 2022 graduate. You have to be outside of the high school, so you have to have graduated for a minimum of a year before you can apply. And then it's the highest degree you can receive.
Awesome.
And then I believe that they were doing teacher recognitions for the honorary degree recipients. So it's the highest thing you can get in FFA. It's what you work for the entire time, and it takes a lot of dedication and many years to get. So it's definitely a higher up thing.
Did you guys bring any guests with you that you could introduce for us?
I know my mom's here in the back. Miss Harper, Deb Harper. And then I know, hold on, I'm gonna let her introduce.
I'm Kira Lamson, and this is my mom, Jackie Lamson.
Larson, did you bring anybody?
Actually, probably.
Well, if you guys would please walk through and shake hands and then come back for a picture as well.
This will be a little bit harder.
A lot more height.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more. Here, Larson sounds just like his dad.
Yeah, he does.
Welcome to stay.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Congratulations.
Earn a merit badge. Or
Glad you enjoyed the
Go.
conference. Glad you had a good time. For sure. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Glad you got to experience that.
Congratulations.
Thanks for being here. Glad you enjoyed the conference. Thanks for being
Great job.
Glad you got to go. Thanks for the experience.
Yeah.
Good handshake.
Congrats.
Yep. Great job.
Congrats.
Experience.
See you. Congrats.
Oh, good job. Oh, Johnny.
It's gonna be more challenging.
Yes, that's okay. I
tall.
like the good one handshake.
Yeah, you may
Good
want,
job, Johnny. Good work.
Yeah, that might
may sneak up front to.
sneak up front.
Oh,
I did bring you the
yes.
2023 highlights of the drag.
Thank you.
You peruse it, yeah.
Oh, we're supposed to go up there?
Oh,
Oh,
All right.
It's almost that when you start walking,
Like you.
I think that was implied, right?
You are certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We don't have merit badges to hand at the end, but you're also welcome to go if you'd like at this point. The choice is yours. There are great pumpkin brownies in the back if you want one of those on the way out the door.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ellen.
guys. Thank you.
But we won't be able to.
And this kid that
Have to ask them
would
twice
never, I mean, that's
about the brownies or about.
Yeah.
Clayton's one of those I never knew if he was gonna make it. Yeah. FFA made it for him.
Richmond Crew said.
If anyone that's sitting in the back wants to move forward, you're welcome.
There's room now.
No. Just a few more pieces from the month that I would like to share. The October entry plan is attached within there. Had the opportunity to go to the KC Chamber luncheon, which was nice. It was 4 local superintendents, both on the Missouri and Kansas side. Had a lot of time to collaborate and listen to what both sides of the state line are working through. We had a lot of really neat events around Veterans Day. First, our wind ensemble played at the Smithville Chamber on Wednesday, and they had a big ceremony. They did a tremendous job representing our school. And then the high school hosts a Veterans Day assembly first thing in the morning each Friday. It was, neat for me. It was the first time my brother had ever come back. He's a veteran, and then his wife also is a veteran. They both participated as well. So it was neat to see them. And then our elementary schools host lunch free for our veterans that come in. And from what I understand, there were several veterans that did attend lunch. So just a great way to celebrate their sacrifice and appreciate all that they gave us for our rights that we get to appreciate every day. We did have the MSBA conference a couple weeks ago. I know those that were able to attend got to see our students down there. They are going to come next month as part of our student recognition. Tonight actually butted up against Battle of the Brains for the area. So they are at a dinner this evening and will come back. We were able to speak with Ms. Holland. I worked with Mr. Moore and Mr. Schaefer regarding the questions about lettering and archery. I would say, Mr. Moore, correct me if I'm wrong, after about 15 minutes, we were able to knock that one out, spoke with Erin, and she was very excited. And I believe that you all got a picture from the coach?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay, good. So I'm glad he was able to share that with you all. And then I believe they have a good conversation with Mr. Moore and Mr. Schaefer moving forward. Also, we had Friday our student advisory council, and it's always good to hear things that they're working on or wondering about. I know Mr. Wintermore just met with his kids today, kind of yesterday on what they worked on. Mr. Morrow had that opportunity in a couple weeks, but we did bring to them the conversation we had last month regarding dress code. And we also worked with our high school through elementary principals, making sure that we cleaned up our language as far as being not specific to a gender. Things like straps usually talks to women's undergarment, having things like dress or skirt out of there, but having more general language within that. And then in talking with the kids about how they felt the dress code was, amazingly, none had questions about it. And Ms. Hedgecorth, feel free to jump in. They felt like it was a good dress code. Their question was, or their comment was that last year they felt like there wasn't a dress code in some instances, and this year there was. So just that adjustment from year to year, and then just wanting to make sure that if it's going to be enforced, that it's consistent throughout. So just that piece with it. But they had really good insight and were able to share. Nathan Fletcher, who was recognized in FBLA as actually part of that group. They gave great feedback when we asked, like, what would you tweak or change? They're like, nothing, it's reasonable. We don't have any questions regarding it. So it was nice to have that feedback from them and work with our principals to work through that as well. The only other piece that's included in there that we'll continue to include each month, as you saw in the personnel report, Ms. Davis was able to hire a lot of substitutes this month, which is always a good thing. And we'll continue to give you updated information on fill rates for you guys as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the two items from last month, either the archery or dress code or anything else that was discussed.
No, I just love that we engaged the kids on the dress code discussion. I had a couple reach out to me and say that they really appreciated that their input was on.
So just that consistency piece, is that just reiterating, like, look, I mean, how do you then?
I do. You work with our building leaders will do it. I have full faith. Talking with, let's be honest, it's more of a secondary than elementary thing. And in talking with Mr. Wintermore and Mr. Moore, when we first went and looked over it, they both said, like, we're going to make sure our staff's aware of this. Just reminders. Yeah. When it's not top of mind, sometimes it gets off. In the spring, it kind of hits you after the cold weather and you're like, oh, every kid was wearing sweats every day to school. And now this suddenly changed, right? Except for the young men, they'll still wear shorts and sandals. But yeah, it's just that reminder. Yep. Anything else you guys would want to add on the building side?
The handful of students that did, in theory, it's a couple of them, it was supported by the parent and it was encouraged by the parent. So student choice, student wearing what they like. If it's not appropriate for school, then they were comfortable with their kid not being at school. So working with the family, what that looks like. So it's not, the simplicity of here's our here's what we're doing. Here's what our expectations are. I would say for 99.8% of our kids, I feel like we got a very good response. And then those that a couple that still had a concern. We've had compliance, but I know that they still have concerns with just us addressing that. But no, I think our kids have done really well. I think our kids responded really well. I think our teachers responded really well. And any community members that's brought up to me, like I said, I can count on two fingers how many people have had a concern with us really enforcing what's in the handbook, because there wasn't a significant amount of changes made. It was just going back to what have we put in the handbook and what can we support. And then now looking at the language to make sure it's gender neutral and also talking to kids and making sure they have an understanding of what we're asking. Because I've learned a lot about apparel in a very short amount of time, and I didn't understand what a lot of stuff was until now. So I feel more educated and better equipped to talk about it too. So I feel like it's gone well to high school.
But I think a big part of that is you're building such strong relationships with the students. And so then when you do have to have those difficult conversations, you have that trust and relationship. So I think that's been key.
I know several people have made very kind comments about me. I will tell you all again, This is the absolute best school district in the state of Missouri. I've been in multiple schools and in multiple buildings. Anywhere I've gone to supervise, anywhere I've gone to be a part of in 25 years of education, whatever, the grass is greener in Smithville. This is an amazing place to be. And I'm the lucky one. So I know people like to say kind words about me, but all I've done is just try to elevate people and bring people together. And it's been my privilege to be here. Our kids respond very quickly and very well. So I appreciate you saying that about the connections, but the kids were super excited when I got here, and they were very genuine and sincere when I met them. And now we know each other a lot better. Like, I got to go to the FFA trip, but those are the things that help me to make those connections. But again, our kids will respond with whatever we ask of them. I've been very fortunate.
Question I have is, are there other activities besides archery that we might have to revisit or look at?
So in talking with Mr. Miller and Mr. Schaefer, felt like all other activities they went through kind of the list on how they worked through. I mean, couldn't see any gaps, and we're like, if there are any, happy to have that conversation with them. So didn't identify any at the first, as you know, Darren kind of went through in his head, all of them felt like they had all the sponsor, you know, or coach had been there long enough to know the system. While this may have been a gap in what we basically, to me, it was a communication gap. They just were unaware of the opportunity.
Props to them for speaking up and advocating for that. And sometimes that's all it takes. So good job.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for Dr. Moss? Hearing none, we'll move on to 9.4, Assistant Superintendent for Academic Services, Dr. Catterfield.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Randy to pull up the dashboard that we've been working on. And while he's doing that, I'm going to address the board recognition dinner. Susan, did you experience this?
No, it was,
Okay.
it was because it was the COVID year when I came,
All right.
but I know about it. Yeah.
Okay. So I just need to make sure you all understand that you need to identify someone to recognize at this recognition dinner. If you need ideas, we will be happy to help you with that. We would like to have their name in advance because we will create a certificate for them. So this is to recognize primarily people in the community who have been supportive. In the past, there have been some staff members that have been recognized, and that's fine as well. So not students, this would be adults. We're going to do the student recognition right after. So yeah, we don't need a whole lot of time to prepare the certificates, but we will frame them and have them that evening. And then you would be prepared to just say a few words about that person and why you chose them. And again, if you need some help with that, we have ideas. That
I'll go ahead and ask on behalf of the board. Would you share kind of who's been recognized in the past and kind of, you know, what the criteria was that folks kind of used?
Absolutely.
I think Ian has done it. I'm aware of it.
Okay. I'll see. I'm sure we have minutes from those meetings where we would be able to identify the people who've been recognized.
Is there a form or anything that our board members turn in for this dinner?
Dr. Cradfield, in the past, we've provided kind of a list of potential nominees for the board to review.
Yes.
And I think either which way, I already have someone in mind, but I know that made it easy on me the first go around. I could actually review a summary about their impact to our district.
Okay. And I would be happy to do both. So I can provide a list of past honorees and also some ideas based upon some current folks that we know. We'll take care of the menu. We'll work with OPA and get that all taken care of, but it is a sit down dinner. We will be served. It's really rather nice. So we likely will reserve the cafeteria at the high school because that's a lovely place to have a dinner. So just wanted you to be aware of your responsibilities prior to. Okay.
What's the date?
That's good. I'm sorry.
What's the date?
January 29th.
Thank you.
And then immediately after we will have elementary board recognitions. Then we will work with the middle school and the high school administration to identify an appropriate time to come and do the same type of recognition at the buildings for our middle school and high school students. Okay, so Randy, did you have the dashboard up? Just want to give you an idea of what we think this is going to look like. Can you please go to the first page, the landing page? So this is currently created in a Google site. Can you scroll up a little bit so they can get the full effect of that page, please? Thank you. So again, just a little bit of history. We always update you all on the strategic plan. We typically do a very thorough review in June, but every month when we meet, we're giving you highlights of things that we're working on related to the strategic plan. This is a product of a recommendation from our area supervisors who felt that in order to really fulfill what the MSIP scoring guide requires, that we needed to identify a handful of action steps from our strategic plan that we created a dashboard for, and we're constantly updating with data. And so this is the result of that. And so Randy, if you just scroll down slowly, this first part, I know you can't read it, is just explaining our the think tank and the whole strategic planning process. And then it identifies the 5 pillars on which we will provide updated data throughout the year. And then as you go down, you'll see that there are icons that are labeled exactly the same as the pillars from our strategic plan. We did put them in a different order. I put academic excellence first. I'm the person who's making the page, so I get to choose which goes first. So Randy, if you would click on that, please. I'd just like to show an example of what kind of data we're going to include here. Thank you. So we've started with our portrait of a graduate. And as you scroll down, this is our first set of data. It's our NWA. Keep going, please. And our goal for our NWA data is to be have 80% of our kids in the top 2 quintiles. So we consider that's actually in some schools have thought above grade level. But this is the first data set that we're going to have. Now, we'll do this every time we do a benchmark, we'll update these numbers. So this happens to be the fall data. And it shows the percentage of students who are already in those top 2. 80% is our goal by the end of the year. We want them to be at 80% by the end of the year, but you should know that each benchmark is a moving target. The numbers go up a little bit, but you will see, even though it is a moving target, you're going to see that our percentages are going to grow as we go throughout the year. We have some grade levels who are close even today to that 80% mark. And so we'll provide updates with our winter benchmark and then our spring benchmark for those grade levels who give that. I'm also going to provide another measure related to NWA, and that is going to be the percentage of students that are above the 50th percentile, because another school of thought is if you're at the 50th percentile, then you're performing at grade level. And so those percentages will be a little bit higher, but this is how our buildings look. Our buildings want our kids. The NWA is divided into 5 quintiles. So there's a low average, an average, a high average, and a high. Our buildings look at those top 2 categories, not the average and above, but the above average and above. So wanted to use the data that's important to them. So we'll have 2 data sets there. We'll also include some pathways data, which I received on Monday. And so we'll begin adding that. So that's just a kind of this is our vision for what this will look like. Randy, would you please go to the expanded learning? Thank you. This is the graphic that I provided the last time we met. This explains our real world learning initiatives, and you'll see our data next to that. The other piece that we're planning to add to this would be as we continue to have our career fairs in all of the buildings, the number of business partners that were engaged in that, when those events occurred, things such as that. So that's the additional data that we'll include there. And then I want to show one more example of one that we've already got built out. Would you please go to the facilities one? And on this, if you'll scroll down, we've included the major construction projects that we will have with this particular bond. And if you just keep going down to the bottom, please. Keep going, please. And then Robert has created this, well, Mindy created and Robert updates this graphic that shows where we are in the completion of various projects. And as that is updated, we will update that here as well. So that's just those are three of the pillars. The sixth pillar of community relations, we don't know, we don't have a good metric to report on that. So we're not planning it. You'll see it as an icon there, but the link doesn't go anywhere. But we will have some data on all of the others. But does that look good to you guys?
Can you
You have
send it to them
suggestions?
so they can look at it more deeply?
Yeah, it's in draft form. I'll see if I can print or if we can get a link, but yes, absolutely I will. Penny was actually working on another project for me and she added some data on here that we don't intend to include here because it isn't related to a specific action step. So we do need to clean a few things up, but yes, I'll get that to you so you can take a look. But that's kind of what we're envisioning right now.
Great.
All right, just a couple more things. I just wanted to let the board know that we are working on the academic calendar for next school year already. And we have a committee of about 13 individuals that represent every one of our buildings, administrators, central office, as well as some of our classified staff. And so we've been working on some ideas related to the calendar based upon feedback from our staff. But we are planning to survey to get additional feedback to really make sure that we're getting a very clear direction. A lot of the things that we are thinking about, such as having more full days off, potentially having no kids the week of Thanksgiving, some of these wishes that have risen to the surface through this committee require that we forego our late start Wednesdays and we find a different way to collaborate. And so this week, the first set of questions will go out to staff and that will be about late starts and what their sentiment is related to that. Because the other questions that we've developed are irrelevant if our staff wants to keep late starts. So that's what's going out first. I would like to also share that at the end of summer school, I polled our summer school staff about the schedule. For the last several years, we've had Memorial Day, they've had a work day, and then our kiddos have started that Wednesday, and they've requested a little bit of time there. So we're looking at minimizing or shortening the number of days and lengthening the day a little bit in order to recoup some of those hours, which is good for kids and also for staff for their pay. So that we might have a change there as well. But then I just have two things that are not on here that I would like to share. First, tomorrow, I mentioned to you previously that the Southern Regional Education Board is coming to do a site visit. And that is in conjunction with the grant that we've applied for with Northland Career Center. That visit is tomorrow. So they will spend the day at the high school visiting classrooms. There will be a series of interviews throughout the day that will take place in this room. And then they will collect all of that information along with some survey data that we've put out. It's their surveys. We just sent them to our people and we don't even have access. I don't even know what the questions are. But we'll get all of that data back. We've provided a lot of artifacts for them related to our demographics, accountability measures, our graduation rate, our attendance, our discipline. I mean, just a variety of things that we've put together. We'll get a debrief with them on Friday morning where they will share just some of their immediate observations. But then in February, there's a full day workshop where they will come back with their report and provide, these are some highlights that we saw. Here's some areas that you might consider. Perfect timing, honestly, because our buildings are working on their strategic plans for their buildings. So this will be amazing data for our high school. But really excited to show off our high school to these people. Mr. Moore and I did a presentation. Gosh, my days are running together yesterday. Kind of gave them an overview of what we're about here in the Smithville School District. They had some great questions and some really good feedback, and I think they're excited to be here as well. And then the last piece that I have, so I'll update you in your Friday update of what we learned from that morning debrief. EAB, the research firm that we work with, they've got a couple of items that they're working on for next year. And so I participated in an interview with them. And while we were talking, I mentioned because one of the people who was interviewing me did a presentation to our administrators earlier this year on chronic absenteeism. And I said, hey, you really should see what our middle school is doing with some of the tools that you have provided us. And so I hooked him and Mr. Winterbore up, and I'll let Mr. Winterbore talk about that meeting, and that went on much longer than he thought it would, and what's the next step.
First of all, thank you, Michelle, for the conversation.
So we spoke for about 2 hours. He took like 9 pages of notes. He sent them back to me, asked me to review them. But what was really interesting as we was going through what we do at Smithville Middle School, one of the things we shared was, I guess the main thing was about attendance and what we're doing for our attendance 90 for 90 initiative this year. And I'm going to start off with just a little bit of success. I want to toot our staff's horn and say how well they've embodied this, and our students and our parents' cooperation to make this happen. But at the end of last school year, fourth quarter, we define our attendance into 3 tiers. Tier 3 attendance is 0 to 79% attendance. Tier 2 attendance is 80% to 89%, and then Tier 1 is 90% or higher. And so our goal is to get 90% of our kids at the 90% threshold. And so it's a multifaceted approach, but at the end of last school year, fourth quarter, we had 68 students in Tier 2, and we had 15 students in Tier 3. And that wasn't good enough. That's not where we wanted to be as Smithville Middle School. And so this year, at the end of first quarter, we had only 4 students in Tier 3 attendance and 43 in Tier 2. So it's been a substantial gain in our attendance, and we're looking forward to continuing that. And it's just from a lot of hard work and really just bringing the attention of what attendance means and partnering with the parents on, having our kids at school and how important that is for them. So in the course of the conversation with Scott Forsberg, what came out was he was very interested in how we look at our systems and overall in general, how we don't just look at attendance by itself. He was mentioning in the research world, when he's working with the superintendents nationwide, they all want a quick fix for how do you fix the attendance problem nationwide. And he said they're missing something and we're missing something. So he said, what I appreciate about your approach is you're not looking at attendance separately. You're looking at it along with the social emotional of each child, the academics of each child, the behavior of each child, and then how we embed that into our systems and our meetings and our teaming at the middle school. And he was just really excited about that, and he asked a lot of great questions, and he asked us if we would be interested as a middle school to be a showcase school or a case study school for EAV research firm nationwide. So it was really a kind of a cool thing. So we're going to continue to collaborate with Scott this school year on what that might look like and where it might lead. But it was just a really good experience, and I really enjoyed talking to him. And I guess the most rewarding thing is the things that he was preaching to us as these are best practices. We're doing that, and Smithville School District is a great place, and we have great people, and it's just awesome to be part of that process. So
cool. Well, we're glad that for that recognition. I mean, it really is a neat thing to be showcased to all of the school districts that they work with nationwide. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I have, unless y'all have questions.
Questions for Dr. Catterfield? Thank you very much. Next up, item 9.5, Executive Director of Support Services, Mr. Hitchcock.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Blunker. Thanks for setting up for I'm remote today. I want to thank Randy Wallace for getting everything organized so I could drop in. I know it's very difficult to accommodate all the requests for different things that happen during the meeting, and being at home for the first time and witnessing one of these meetings, I can hear everybody very clearly, and it's appreciative of all the work he does for that. So just want to mention that first. Next, I want to move on to construction. We do have a slow part of the season, not because the weather's been bad, but just because of where we're at in the process and continuing to wait for that soil compaction to happen at the transportation facility. We saw some promising data last week. Is the less movement we see, the better, because that means that compaction is starting to come to a halt. And so we believe the last week of November, first week of December, we'll be pulling that dirt off and starting to pour some footings and foundations for that site. So that'll be fun. Still on track for a June finish. and it'll be exciting to see everything completed. In your agenda, you do have a couple of pictures of some of the site work going on at the transportation facility. So they're not just sitting idle. Currently, they're running some conduit from Horizon Elementary to the transportation facility. And what that does is that'll allow not only electric, but fiber. And one of the advantages of that site in the first place was we could hook into our existing infrastructure and use our existing internet connection and electrical capabilities instead of having to have a new site set up for each basically building that we have on campus. So being able to hook in that main campus was very advantageous and a good way to leverage what we already had in the area. And so that's where we sit construction wise. As far as transportation RFP, we released our transportation RFP this month. We had a pre-bid meeting yesterday, and we had 4 vendors show up to that pre-bid meeting. And so during the pre-bid meeting, we talked about the RFP and some of the details that were in it so they could ask questions. But we also did a virtual tour of the transportation facility as well. And so they're very excited to see that coming online. We talked about the offices they would have to host someone that was dispatched that would be able to take calls from our community, which is a big need for our transportation service instead of trying to catch people on their cell phone as they go. So they were very excited to see those plans facility, excited to see it completed. We anticipate the RFP is done or due Friday, December 1st. And so once we receive all those bids, we anticipate all 4 bidders that were at the pre-bid meeting to submit a bid. And we anticipate having a recommendation for you during that time. Myself, Dr. Moss, and Andre Ambrosian will be the 3 people that'll review the bids that come in for our transportation RFP. And then we have a rubric that will then be bringing you who we believe the best contractor is for the district. So short and sweet tonight. That's all I have as far as the update goes. Not a lot going on in construction, and be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Questions for Mr. Hitchcourse? All right, then we'll move on to 10.1, general financial review.
Yeah, so in your general financial review, you will notice that you have a monthly update. This update comes after our second budget revision that occurred in October. And so at our last board meeting, there were some approvals for increase in sub pay and some also other incentives for substitutes and for teachers that cover on their plan period in the classroom. And so those give you estimates of the effect of what that has to the budget. So the very line item at the top shows where our second budget revision was. And then it shows you the impact of those recommendations to the board last month. Please note that those are estimates. We do not know the exact number of times that we will have or need a substitute in the classroom. And so those are just based on previous history of what we've had and give you estimates of where we sit currently for that. So we'll continue to give you that monthly update in the financial review. So any impacts that we have, those are major impacts. You know, there are slightly minor impacts all the time, whether it's a slight supply budget or maybe there's something coming in for a student transportation or something, but those major impacts that we see from month to month, so you guys can track that as we go. Be happy to answer any other questions you might have in that financial review.
Thanks for putting that adjustment in there. It's kind of nice to be able to just keep track of the impacts of our decisions. So thanks for doing that.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Hitchcourse? All right, 10.2 board committee updates. Does someone want to update from
the who drew the short straw this month?
Forgot to draw.
Draw. You want your notes back? So finance committee met again before our meetings this evening. We did a lot of work. Well, we started off with a conversation with our auditor. He'll give a final comments to the board in December, obviously. So we met with him for about 10 minutes. And then we spent most of our time on setting up and having discussions around the key metrics on pulling data for comparable school districts in the state of Missouri that we'll eventually compare ourselves to. We are definitely going to use Kearney and Platte County, obviously, because of the proximity. But out of this list, we'll probably add another 3 school districts is what we're looking at. Some of the metrics are free and reduced lunch, cost per pupil, our ABA per pupil, our operating levy, and local tax per pupil, and then we have a tiebreaker even. So if it comes to that, but then we also discuss the variances that we'll accept for each one of those. And so next month we'll hopefully get a list of those and then whittle that list down to, like we said, 2 to 3 more to go to add on to Kearney and Platte County.
So I'll buy it. What's the tiebreaker?
Oh, the tiebreaker was the local tax per pupil.
Okay.
Yeah, I jumped the gun on that.
The other one is reserve ratio.
Reserve ratio. Yep. The tricky part with reserve ratio is that several school districts took the one-time money and they still kept it in their reserve ratio. So their reserve ratio looks much higher than what they typically would in a regular operating year. So we'll try to weed through that the best that we can. Our hope is to get 3 out of 5 of our options, and then that'll limit all the school districts down that we can get to that. So,
and Linda joined us again. She's still helping us kind of guide those conversations. So
yeah, Linda Quinley from MSBA. Yeah, very helpful. So, and a lot of good information from Kim and Robert, and very good conversation, and we covered a lot of information today. So
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Any questions for the group? Hearing none, we'll move on to 10.3 policy GCPB, resignation of professional staff.
Yep. So I did provide a memo for you. This is that policy that we continue to revisit, and so wanted to bring this up for discussion again tonight, so we can make some progress on this and kind of settle in with the direction that the board would like to go. At the bottom of the memo, you will see that I added a statement on there since it was first published that we did have some conversation with some of our building leadership and committees and gathered some feedback from them. So we feel like we're at a good point to jump off of, but I'm happy to entertain any questions or discuss this policy in whatever direction you'd like to go.
I asked for some feedback from some staff, and one question that came up, can you explain on the explanation of options, stay notification incentive for qualified, certified, and classified staff, the estimated cost $35,000. If it's no monetary value, that cost then.
Right. So offering a flex non-work day, the thought process behind that was if somebody gives us notification in advance that they're committing to the district, then at the beginning of the next contract year, we offer 1 additional flex non-work day. We say it doesn't have monetary value because it's not going to roll with accrued paid leave into the next year. They can't cash out that particular non-work day, but it will have some cost associated for the district. If the staff member does take that leave day, we would possibly have to have a substitute for that day. So we were looking at the cost of some staff members require subs, some do not. It depends on when that day is taken. So there may be cost associated with that. This is just an estimate.
That's what I assumed that was the case, but thank you for explaining. And then one that came up a couple times was basically adding the incentives for, and their blunt question was, why are we even offering incentives for people to leave our district?
Right, great question. And I kind of wrestled with that, and some districts offer an incentive for notification of resignation, not just retirement, but a lot do not. The reason that we're even proposing that is because it can help the district if we know that somebody is looking to make a relocation because of a family situation, or they're unhappy with the district and they're going to resign and look for employment elsewhere. The earlier we know that information, the better off we are in trying to recruit a suitable replacement. And so it gets us in the mix of that peak hiring season. So if you notice, the notification is early. It's that first Friday in January. So if somebody knows, it's much better for us to know in advance than to wait until May or June and get that resignation. So it's a small monetary spend. It may or may not move the needle, but it's something that I thought we might want to test the water on.
That's only available to individuals who would continue to work out the remainder of their that year's contract.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It wouldn't be paid out immediately upon giving us their resignation. It would be paid out after their last paycheck. They would have to complete their contract and or work agreement.
Well, this is a interesting subject as it intertwines with some of the subject matters we continue to talk about for the last 6 months. Substitutes. And I know one of the things that I was concerned with substitutes is that the issues that we voted on last month are not, there's a chance that that doesn't solve the substitute issue. But also in that conversation was looking over our current operations and making sure we're not doing harm to ourselves. And this kind of reads as if we're creating an issue where we're going to have, or we're going to create a substitute need with this policy.
With the flex non-work day.
So that's where I have a tough time with this policy, the way it's worded right now, because we know we have a substitute issue, and now we're going to create more of a substitute issue. Is there a possibility that we just have a retention stipend instead of another day that's going to require a substitute?
Yeah, I mean, we can explore that option. And I have to be honest, when I was typing that out, I was thinking, all right, Mr. Jacoby, I'll be ready. I wrestled with that as well. We have been advocating, our substitute fill rate has been low. We don't have enough substitutes. We need to make sure our classrooms are covered. And then I'm going to come back and propose a flex non-work day. So I understand that thought process. I will say that our sub-fill rate has gone up since we've made those adjustments. We've hired 11 substitutes already. We hired 6 more today. So hopefully that will have a positive impact. But is this the right thing? I'm not going to say that this is something we have to do. I thought it would be a good deposit for staff and may help the morale. We're still gathering feedback on whether that would make an impact or not. So could we do something else? I know one district does a attendance incentive. And so if we wanted to explore something like that, I'm happy to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested if the survey had an option for them besides just a flex day. And
so
can we provide in a retention stipend? I mean, we have it laid out here with $150 for certified and $100 for classified, and that's on the resignation side. But why couldn't we just emulate that on the retention side? And then
you want it to almost match the sub rate that retention stipend could, or be a little bit more?
Yeah, something to consider. I mean, I just don't like the idea of creating another substitute, problem, right? And when we know we have the issue, And, you know, we talked a lot about our current operations and going through our current operations and evaluating that. And I'm always for trying to reward our current staff, right? And that might just sync up with the stay notification also, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great ideas to consider. This would be for all classified and certified staff, not administrators. And so one of those categories, like our maintenance, if they were to receive that, they don't need a substitute. They could take that time in the summer or things like that. So it wouldn't necessarily cost the district anything as far as dollar goes. If we do an attendance incentive, that would impact everyone in both of those categories. So just, the way.
Are there other districts that have the similar reward? So if you commit to staying, you get an extra ALB day, PTO day, whatever they call it within that district.
Not for additional paid leave days.
Do they have it for other ways? Are there other HR folks that are approaching that as a incentive for people?
So I know that Park Hill does an attendance incentive for their classified staff, where if they give them an additional $1 per hour for the number of hours they've worked in a semester.
So there is not a district you know of that is rewarding with basically a paid day off.
No, not that I looked into.
Because I would be curious if that increased absences, or did it instead offset the person's first absence the next year?
Yeah.
So if the first absence I had, like I had the 10-year-old, there's a chance he's going to be sick one day and Katie and I are going to play rock, paper, scissors to see what happens, right? Not that I'd be eligible when we were both teachers. So instead of that being necessarily as an extra day off, meaning you're increasing the sub needs, does it then offset the first sick day I would have taken? So if there isn't an example of that to do, but that could be another layer with this just being the first reading.
Right. That's a great example. And I can look and find out. I can see if I can find that.
And to be clear for everyone kind of listening at home, this has been a policy that has been problematic for years that the board has kind of struggled with. And how do we get this right? How do we do this in a meaningful way? This is an info discussion, not an action discussion this evening, to gather information from the board. So Ian, I know you're online and sometimes it's hard to speak up. So do you have thoughts on kind of the ideas that have been thrown out?
No, I absolutely love Scott's perspective. I would rather incentivize ourselves for retention from that perspective than create another layer in terms of sub opportunity. But I know, Kim, I'm interested. I know we have an opportunity to work together kind of on this piece of it as we go a little bit along, you and Susan and I, and we'll take a dive in and just see where we get to as we unlayer this. But I think this is a great start, and I think we can get to a pretty good place.
I know that the liquidated damages piece of this policy has been of concern over the last couple of years. Any feedback on that piece?
Well, I've probably been on long enough, like Ian said, and it's been such a struggle every time we meet to do the liquidated damages. Do we not? Do we do? There wasn't really good parameters, and I felt motions came into it, and it was hard that, we didn't set precedents so I like the liquidation damages as you have it right now, in that what is the only legal thing that we have to let someone leave? Is it military? I mean, is there anything legally that we have to let someone leave that we shouldn't assess damages?
Well, the liquidated damages is not like, if someone needs to leave mid-year because of military or relocation, technically there's a breach of contract, but the board can vote to release them of that contract. So you are releasing them legally. We are on good grounds there because you're releasing them of their contract. The liquidated damages piece comes into play with what does the district, how much is it gonna cost for us now to fill this vacancy? What is the recruitment piece and all of those additional hours that go into filling that position?
And I thank you very much. And I like how we have the liquidated damages here. My only concern is that we said the damages will be waived if a suitable replacement is found by July 1st. What I have found, and we've had a lot of experiences, is it's very hard to get a suitable replacement. I know, especially at the high school, we've had some hires that have not worked well, and they were late hires. And so I don't think it should be waived if it's not before July 1st, because we are actually, I think you guys are working even harder than to try to find a position. And trying to get that good person. So I don't know, I sort of think I don't know if it gives them an out. I don't know how much the liquidated damages is, works and maybe deters people, but I think trying to be as black and white as we can, looking at the Platte County one that you gave us, I mean, they're pretty black and white. After June, it's 1,000. They even make sure that you have to have a cashier's check and a designated amount before you can, be approved. So I'm not saying that's right. I think that's a little maybe extreme, but somewhere in the middle to where it takes the board's decision sort of out of it is, it's either we assess damages or we don't. And I like it, we assess damages. If you're after May 1st, you get this. After June 1st, this. After July 1st, this. So that's sort of, I don't know if that makes sense, but sort of where I'm coming from on the liquidated damages.
And that's where the liquidated damages is where I kind of focused in on because I wanted to learn a little bit more about some of the other options kind of presented previously. I like the idea of more of a flat fee than the percentage. I think that matches kind of what our peer districts are doing, and so that's kind of my thoughts on that, is more towards a flat fee on it.
And the reason that we went with a percentage option and then capping a dollar amount was based on a person's current salary. So are you, is somebody early in their career, is that going to be more of a hardship on them at $1,000 than someone towards the end of their career? And so that's where a percentage may be a little more equitable than a flat rate, which is why we offered both. You are at this percent and it won't exceed a certain dollar amount. Then we're not being excessive with our assessment of damages. So that was that perspective to consider. The July 1st date, I wrestled a little bit with that. With our tenured teachers, they have a rolling contract, so they're not required to sign it every year. We ask them to acknowledge they've received it. If they're going to leave the district, then they need to give us notification by June 1st. So if we receive notification June 1st, then my thought process was, then we're able to dig in and get some interviews going and see if we can find a replacement. And if over those 30 days we have not been able to, those damages are assessed because we are still on the hunt for a replacement. So that's why I landed on July 1st. I don't have a problem, pushing it earlier in the month, but that's what I was thinking on that piece.
So our tenured teachers have up until June 1st to tell us. Wow, that's late. Okay, that's really late.
And you also note in here, and I'll just call it out, that the Salary and Benefits Committee asked for additional time to provide some feedback. And
yes.
Oh, yes.
Only
Yeah, we're just all talking.
So,
yes.
So
yeah, I have not had a chance to get the representation from the Certified Salary and Benefits Committee.
And I think that's great. Let's listen and hear from everybody.
I say you'll be able to provide us then after at another meeting what you're hearing from the groups.
I think so.
Perfect.
Well, and I'm torn because I understand what Susan is saying, but there have been some very unique, difficult situations that have been presented to us, and I don't want to lose sight of the human being behind these situations. And I know that that sometimes does cause some gray area. So I'm intrigued to hear from the, I don't know, to really get all feedback and I don't know, I guess thinking about it from individual situations.
Yeah, it's hard.
Sure, it's hard. Yeah.
And I know that districts who don't assess a liquidated damages, and talking to some of, their staff, they're like, why? I've signed the contract, but I could still break it because they'll let me out of it. And so where do we weigh that person versus the business side of things? There's got to be a balance.
Yeah.
And I don't have the right answer. It's just something that we're going to have to kind of work through and land on.
That was
Which
sort
is
of
why we've talked about it so many
Oh,
times.
yeah. Oh, I
mean,
I
because
love it. I love hearing different, ways of thinking about it. And I do agree with you. That's the very hard part about it. One thing I got to thinking too is, like it or not, teachers and staff sign contracts, and these are contracts binding, and that's different than, like, I didn't sign a contract for my job. I could leave at any time. I don't even have to. The best thing would be give notice, right? But a contract is different. A contract is, it is a binding thing. You're promising, and it affects the kids so much when we have the turnover. And I know we're going to have it. I don't know the best way. I don't know if damages work at all. I just really struggle with it. But over the years, it has just got very frustrating. So I really appreciate us talking about this, working on it. So.
Additional thoughts for tonight? There's lots of additional feedback to additional discussion to be had in the future. And thank you all for everyone who's helping to make sure we get this right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for bringing it back.
You're so welcome.
I'm just going
All right, if there are no additional thoughts on 10.3, we'll move to 11.1, consideration of the district nominee for the MSBA John T. Belcher Scholarship.
Yes, this is a scholarship put on by MSBA Future Builders. It was established in memory of John T. Belcher, who did a ton of work and really innovative financing programs throughout the state. This is really MSBA's way of honoring them. There will be 17 regions that will have a winner, including ours, and they will be eligible for a $1,000 annual scholarship. And then other applicants will be judged to be the state winner as well, which is an increased fund out of that 17. So there are four applicants. The rubric is included. Just ask that you guys.
And I would like to just take a show of hand vote. And that I removed the names and personal information from the applicants. So I'll just call out applicant 1. If you want applicant 1, please raise your hand. Applicant 2.
Well,
Oh,
did Ian
already emailed
Ian,
me? Is that correct, Ian?
You just go with my priority email, Karen.
Okay, I sure will. Applicant 3 and applicant 4.
All right, that was pretty
Thank
easy.
you.
Wow, look at us.
All right, that was the easiest thing this evening, and also one of the fun things to do.
Yeah, it's good to read those.
All right, we'll see if the next one goes as easy. 11.2, recommendation for demographer services.
Did we need to take an action on that? Did we need to take a vote on it? Or?
Was our hand.
We did a hand vote. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, as I shared previously, it's been 7 years since Smithville has gone out and had a demographer report. It is a key piece of information as we talk about, thinking about our finances and how we're spending our money. I also think we need to think about who are our students coming in, what is our potential changes, where's our growth coming from, how is that going to impact our building's capacity, and the demographer report provides a tremendous amount of information for that. We put an RFP out in October and received 4 responses. I've actually had the opportunity to work with 3 of the 4 respondents. Lucky you. I don't know if that's lucky or not, but 3 of the 4 respondents made a recommendation regarding Zonda. They most recently worked with North Kansas City is where I overlapped with them. The couple pieces as we worked through the rubric and looked through that, Robert and I both read through all 4. They were much different financially than 2 of the 4 and provided a lot of good detailed information regarding growth. While a lot of demographers will say, hey, we think there's going to be, there's 400 homes being plotted in your district, and this is the main area, and this is where they grow. This is where we think they'll grow. Zonda will actually bring in and say, here's the aerial view of that area. Here's the number of homes that are currently lived in. Here's the ones that are plotted. Here's what we anticipate of growth as far as those being built out. Some of the previous demographers have been like, hey, there's going to be 400 homes there. Well, if there's no sidewalks, there's no roads, there's no utilities, it's not coming soon. And they did a nice job with that. So that is the recommendation. They do offer a reoccurring demographer report that they would do each year. My recommendation would be just for us to do 1 year and then see if it would be necessary in years future.
Now, would the demographer potentially shift the elementary zones?
Demographers can be part of that conversation.
That would be a separate process.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would take their information and do that, but lots of demographers do work with rezoning of schools.
Yeah. But that would be a totally separate process if we decide to rezone. But we'd use that information.
Use that data.
Okay. Thanks.
They also did say they could meet the January 17th board meeting.
I liked, it's the North Kansas City one, but it really breaks it down into not just the numbers. It shows like the pictures of each subdivision and where things are at. I'm very visual. That's helpful. Yeah.
And they will provide a 10-year look at each of our buildings, low, medium, and high. That's pretty standard for reports.
Any questions on this? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. There's no further discussion. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Fantastic. We now have a demographer. Next item, 11.3 supplemental pay for November 2023.
Is this taken out because somebody?
Mrs. Carlisle has a loved one on this list, so she will be absent from this vote. With that, I entertain a motion to approve the supplemental pay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote. Motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstention, being Mrs. Carlisle. Next item on the agenda is 11.4 legislative priorities.
I shared this with you as many school districts will adopt a legislative platform moving into the legislative session, which will begin in January. Included in there are several that are either in draft or final adopted form of different organizations throughout the state, and did not know if this is something that we would want to pursue as a board. This could be a small working committee that gets together, develops it, brings it back in December would be my suggestion. So that way we do have it as we visit the Jeff City and go down to Advocacy Day and those other pieces. In working with legislators over the year, something that is very short, consumable, that has your priority and it's branded, that's about what they look at.
Okay.
When you have a 3 or 4 page platform, I assure you they don't get past page 3/4. So just something to think about if it's something that you guys would want to pursue. I'd be very interested in being a part of developing that for the board to potentially adopt.
I would love to.
Yeah, I think it'd be well worthwhile for those of us who went down for the last advocacy day. We kind of created a one pager.
Who was was it you three?
Carlisle, Mr. Jacoby, and I.
Yeah, I think that would be.
I'm up for you guys doing it. I would, my question, yeah, was just what are other school districts doing? And you answered it, and you know, it, like you said, not, it wouldn't be as detailed as some of these other, and you know, because we are members of MASA and MSBA, that means this is part of what we're looking at too. Okay, that's only my questions were.
We have a baseline from what we did last year.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
Okay,
would
good.
like, here's two or three strong points. And I think something learning from last time, making those appointments early, getting in as early as we can with them. So then they can actually do something with their feedback. And
Yeah, and I think
insight.
part of what went well is we presented on behalf of the district, but then each of us individually could share our own personal views as well.
Yeah.
As individuals and not formally as board members. And, I think our first point is, as Mr. Moy pointed out already, we are the best school district in the state, period, bar none, right? So.
One. Yeah, he's. I would also share that there are many times. Thanks for waking him up. There are also
token for him too.
There are also many times that I'm asked, and it would be good for me to say, here's what the Smithville School District and our Board of Education is supporting. Otherwise, I just share my own, and they don't really care about my own. They want to know what the board wants.
Okay. Yeah, you guys work on it. Sounds good.
All right, 12.1, I know it says adjourn, but I don't know if folks wanted to share their thoughts from the MSBA conference, or if there's any key lessons or learned. What's that? Or the building walkthrough from yesterday?
I learned we have a great school district too. I mean, several of the things that I went to on one on, showing what you're doing and communications. And I was going through this meeting and I'm like, yep, we do that. Mindy does that. Mindy does that, So Mindy, you're doing a great job. She was like, you should start, making all these forms and doing social media. And so I just wanted to say they were saying this is a good thing to do. And I'm like, yep, we're already doing it. So that's one good thing about going to those districts is you learn, but then sometimes I'm like, wow, yeah, we're doing good.
So I attended the board president workshop on Thursday afternoon while the new folks were in their orientation class. It was the largest attendees for the board, and I think it was the largest class for the new as well, which I think maybe wasn't great from an education perspective. But there's something for the group, or so one of the things that was clear from the board president's workshop was the ability to work together as a group, and making sure that your priorities were aligned. It wasn't just one kid or one classroom or one building, but the entirety of the school district, all 2,500 kids. And that was one of the great things, and there was a lot of discussion on how to kind of make that happen.
Yeah, I sat on one about the financial impacts of charter schools, which was not a topic I was super familiar with. I've never been in a immediate area affected by charter schools, and school choices directly tied to charter schools, which I think is a really big gray area for a lot of community that aren't impacted by charter schools. I'm speaking for myself from experience, but it was pretty eye-opening very eye-opening. I mean, if everybody could listen to Linda's presentation on charter schools, I think that it would really make a big impact to people understanding that there's a lot of downside to charter schools, and there's a lot of mismanagement, and it was good that there was representatives from Kansas City and St. Louis and that as well to speak on personal experiences and the inefficiencies with it, and it was very eye-opening.
Yeah, MSBA. Okay. First of all, I feel a lot of pride wearing that Smithville green, and you like want your hair. You want them to know you're from Smithville. So kudos to our district for making us want to stand a little taller and walk proud and be proud to be Warriors. One thing that I thought was interesting, I kind of had like an aha moment. You sign up for different classes based on what you want, and sometimes I go to ones that speak to me, and sometimes I choose ones that I maybe might have a different opinion on as the presenters. But this one, I was kind of debating between a few, and it was like dealing with a upset community member, and then at the same time was one building a positive culture. And I thought, oh well, if you know me, I get kind of fired up. So the dealing with frustrated people kind of excites me. But I decided to go the culture one, and I thought that was telling like we are moving forward. COVID was rough for a lot of different reasons, but that room was packed full. And I feel like across the state, people are moving forward and excited and ready to help our districts and our staff and get to a point where, okay, now what? We're future driven versus, I don't know. It just was a positive moment for me to realize that. But, and then I think the school walkthroughs just, I was so impressed with the students. They're just good students. Like, even if you bump into them in the hall, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm like, they're just respectful, good students. So I was really proud of them. Something to note, man, that high school, I would sure love to do some renovation there. So it's coming. Hopefully someday. Yes.
You have a fan over there.
I'm right there with you. So, but yeah, just really proud of our students. Yeah, it's a key takeaway.
We talk a lot about like community engagement and stuff, and getting feedback, and all the buildings had great examples of it, but specifically to Todd and Scott, like very apparent that students are interacting with administration. They're giving feedback, and not just giving feedback, but it's getting acted on. It's quick. There's not a lot of wait time with it. That response time is like critical, I feel like, for kids and parents. I mean, if they're given something we can get done fast, it's getting done. And I think that sort of horsepower to be able to get that stuff done is a good thing. And I'm glad you guys touched on that students are engaged and actively participating in making the buildings better. It's not just coming from the board or the administration, it's coming up too. So that was good to see.
Anything else, Ms. Cud, Mr. Jacoby?
I disagree with what you're saying about the student advisory group and the recommendations coming out from that group. It's great to hear students having input, and then, now we just have to make a lot of those recommendations reality. So
Now you have to act like you're listening. Now they're checking to see if we're listening. Right?
They did in the locker rooms.
Yeah.
Great examples of what we got as students. It's rewarding for me. I enjoy it. I look forward to it. Yeah, it's really great. Glad Mark started the process. Thinking to myself, we should have been doing this long before.
They're awesome kids.
To Whitney's point too, it was amazing just to go through all of the different schools and just see how calm and quiet they all were. Like, no chaos. We were there for some bell ringings, and we're preparing ourselves, and they all just, I mean, it was amazing. Walk into or actually we were part of the problem in the hallways, talking to kids. Hi, they're all trying to follow their rules. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to you or not, but it was impressive to see just how well our students are behaving, and that was fun to see. Both of my children didn't even like get out of their seats initially to come say hi to me because they didn't know if they were allowed to or not. I gave them a hard time for that afterwards, but it's good to see that they all know the expectations, and they want to follow them.
Having Station Mark, like we walked through the buildings, and you know, you guys went to school here. So
Mhm.
obviously it was very quick to figure out like which buildings still need some work and which buildings, you know, like Maple, for instance, you were like, oh, wow, this has changed a lot. Where the high school's like, oh, this hasn't changed at all. So it was nice to get that perspective from you guys too. So
Yeah, when Whitney was talking about updating the high school, I was making eye contact with Stacy because it's pretty much what we went to school in.
Which is great. Keep the tradition and all that stuff, but let's.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I went to 7 and 8 there.
Oh.
I thought it was great too, like the administrators, you guys bragged on your teachers. You showed us some of the best. You told us things that were going on. And I let the teachers know that, because I think sometimes they wonder, what do we talk about on these things? And I said, you know, Mr. Wintermore told us that the math is the greatest they've ever had in 7th grade because of the 6th graders here. And I told them that, and they were just so appreciative that you guys are looking out for them. They know that, but it's so cool when they see that you're telling the board those things. So you guys got a lot to be proud of, but it was so cool to see you so excited and proud of your school and kids and teachers. So.
Just for the continuation, so that teacher program that you saw there today was real well running. I would tell you that the previous district sent me multiple pictures of our kids presenting with a lot of
Compliments of how well our kids presented, how well they were spoken, how well they represented Smithville. And then I also have heard from the Kaufman Foundation in regards to how well our kids did with regards to that. I told Miss Marsh when she was sitting in here, I know she won't say it, but those kids failed so much to get to where they are, to have that great of a success. So it was an honor that I knew she was taking our kids to go present that sweatshirt. And in her mind, it was simple and the kids worked really hard and it wasn't exactly what they wanted. But they were probably at one of the biggest highlights of the real world learning stuff today, and their presentation went really well. And multiple people from different districts sent me feedback about our kids. And so again, just a testament to that. When we put our kids out there, put them out in front of the community members, they won't let us down. They just continue to show up. So super proud of Miss Marsh of what she did with that. But just for continuation, they're going to actually feature that. They're going to continue to follow Smithville. And now Miss Marsh just shared with me that she's been approached by 3 other schools. They'd like to come tour Smithville High School to see what we do in a t-shirt shop. You all saw our t-shirt shop, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they're going to come observe. But we presented a pretty cool product. So anyway, I think it's just something, it's one of those air high fives.
Yeah.
You can kind of see something in its full entirety of kind of how it's not over, but this was the learning that started and it was a lot of risk taking. So just another prop to Miss Marsh. So thank you.
Can I say one more thing? A key takeaway was class sizes matter.
Yeah.
Thinking back to last year building walkthroughs and then yesterday, you walk in and feel the difference. And I found myself when I feel that difference of a small class counting. 1, 2, 3. Yep, this makes sense. You instantly feel that. And if we feel it in 2 minutes walking into a classroom, those students feel it in the teacher every single day. So big advocate for those.
We heard teachers say it too. Yep. We heard teachers say it. We heard administrators say it, and then we felt it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Is that new station?
No.
Sure.
I just know I didn't.
It sounded like Whitney, but
He wants to stay.
Oh no, that's not.
Yay.
all right, then we stand adjourned.
Bye, guys. Thank you.